Everybody ready? Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome to the pre-reading workshop. Ms. Nahla and myself will be presenting in this one today. And our workshops consist of two. First is pre-reading, other is pre-writing, and in the 1 hour we switch so you're able to see both. And that's a good way of making the most out of your time here with us today.
So, hello everybody. This is Nahla. I know most of the parents here. So this is the pre-K4 team. Ms. Rasha, Ms. Krisa, Ms. Brittany, and myself. And here is Ms. Afaf, Ms. Tara, Ms. Lani, and Ms. Fatu. We're all aboard and everything is happening in every bus. It's all the same. Sometimes you might see different activities or something, but the pre-reading and the pre-writing, the literacy and the math and everything, we're all on the same board and we're all doing the same curriculum. So that's why we're doing two sessions. Here's the pre-reading and the other one is pre-writing.
All right, so first up, what is pre-reading? It is exactly how it sounds. Pre-reading skills are the building blocks that the children need before they learn how to read. If these steps are skipped, you have a lot of students who can read enormous books and they have absolutely no idea what they've read. These building blocks help them to value comprehension and what they're reading. So even if they're not strong readers, if they know what they've read, they're actually doing extremely well. So that's what we're going to look at today is the different skills that they need to learn how to read.
So, what does it look like in our everyday life? There's a lot of aspects that we cover. We do read aloud here, and of course I'm sure you do it at home too, like story time. And the picture walk, storytelling and retelling, and shared reading, comprehension, rhyming words, letter skills, direction, motor skills, book orientation, and language skills. We're going to go through every subject now and see.
Okay. First up is the read aloud. Books are everywhere. The school is fortunate enough to have a very wide variety of books for our kids. We have them in the classrooms, we have them in the library, the kids can go and they check them out, and then a lot of you also have books at home. This is part of our daily classroom schedule. Almost every day, if not multiple times a day, there is some sort of read aloud. Whether it's a YouTube video of a fun read aloud, or it's us reading to the kids, or if it's in the library they're being read to, or if they're partnering up with another class. Read alouds are happening. You can make it part of your home routine too. I don't believe you could ever read too much to your child. They love it and it gets them passionate about their reading. During the read aloud, we discuss book orientation, which is like the cover of the book, the author, the illustrator, the story elements, so who's the main character, where does the story take place, what's happening in the story. The kids at this age make good connections. They can make connections to their lives and to what they learn. For example, this week we did pumpkin explorations. So we read pumpkin books so that they could connect what they were reading to what we were learning about in the class to help with that comprehension in the classroom. And then finally is predication. So they're going to predict what happens in the story. So they'll start on the first page, they see something happen. By the end of it, they need to try to figure out what do they think is going to happen next. We read the same book over and over again sometimes. That will help us really go into depth about the main characters, the plot, the setting, and sequential order. We demonstrate the process of reading a book. So when we do read alouds, we read it how we want them to read it. They'll look at the cover, they'll open it up, they turn the pages gently. So it's all about modeling that behavior of how we read a story.
All right, so I'm not sure if you heard your kids talking about the picture walk, because we've been focusing on it this time, and we send them to quiet reading time whenever we have an extra like 5-10 minutes, whether it's after snack or after lunch. We always tell them it's quiet reading time, it's your reading time, and they come back to us and say, but we don't know how to read. Can you read this for me? Can you read this for me? So I was like, just do a picture walk. Look at the pictures, try to think what is happening. This is what a picture walk is, and it's very important. It's the basic pre-reading skill. If they sit down, if they know how to sit for like 2-3 minutes without moving around, just looking at the books and looking at the pictures inside, trying to make sense of what is happening, figure out what the book is going to be about. Is it going to be a funny book? Is it going to be a scary book? Is it fiction? Is it real? So it's very important to give them this time with the book on their own to do the picture walk. They're going to come back to you and ask for your help, but just send them back. You know, and just keep trying, keep looking at the pictures, and then when I come, let me know what you figured out of the book. So it might sound easy, but yeah, it takes practice for them to actually sit and make sense of the pictures without reading the words. And sometimes they can really guess what is happening. If they, some books are, especially the level books, when they look at the pictures, they can figure out everything that is happening in the story. And then when you go and talk to them, so what do you think the character is feeling here? What do you think this book will be about? They start telling you the events, and then when you sit actually and read it, they feel so proud of themselves that they were able to predict and guess everything in the book that was correct. So I encourage you to do the picture walk with your kids at home, and just keep posing questions on them and see what they're thinking and their level of thinking.
Storytelling and retelling. This goes along with the picture walk. It's the ability to tell stories. To tell a story, even if it's from their imagination, their dream, how their day went, just telling you a story, or you telling them stories that they can remember later. The picture walk counts as storytelling and retelling because they're telling a story based on only the images on the page. Children retelling stories verbally to look for sequence in the story and events. So this is what happened first, this is what happened next, this is what happened last. They're retelling that story. They're not reading it. It's all verbal and it's from memory. Children will be able to show their creativity by drawing the sequence of a story. So soon we're going to start working, we do in pictures and in words, which is starting with the pre-writing skills where they are able to draw pictures based on what they're reading, and that helps show the comprehension of the story. So this is what we're about to start moving into, is drawing the sequence of events. Drawing a picture at the beginning, what happens in the middle, what happens at the end.
So the shared reading is we write like our favorite poems, and or maybe a book that we read over and over and over again. Sometimes they really want to listen to the same book over and over. First of all, it helps them learn the vocabulary in the book when you keep reading it more than one time. Some other books, the words are like in every page there's like 2 words or something, so it's very easy for them to remember. Or if it's a nursery rhyme, or if it's something, this is all called shared reading, when they are pretending that they're reading, but they're actually memorizing the words. They're not really reading it, but they know that that's a song, that's a Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. This is kind of a shared reading. When you do that, we do it here a lot. We try to like find poems or nursery rhymes that goes with our unit and put them on the board and have them come up, and the purpose of it is them using the direction that they need to start from left and go to the right and then stop at each word. And when they do that at the same time, they notice that, okay, if that's a Twinkle Twinkle Little Star book, they pointed a different word, and then we go, is this a T? Do you think this is a twinkle word? Or you need to look for a word that starts with T. So it's a chance for you to integrate more than one lesson at the same time. And it just exposes them to the fact that what we are saying is what we're writing, and that word and that letters are put together to make words, and words are put together to make sentences, and sentences we separate them with spaces, and when the sentence is finished you can put a period, you can put a question mark. So it's always an opportunity to bring things up more than just shared reading. So it's very helpful with these little ones.
Comprehension. So I've been talking about comprehension a lot here. It's building new vocabulary, listening comprehension. So when we do a read aloud or we read the story to the kids and we say, okay, what happened in the story? You have the kids who just look at you. They did not comprehend what happened in the story. Then you have the kids that are like, well, the wolf came and tore down the first house, and then he blew down the second house, he blew down the third house. That's comprehension. Listening and knowing what happened in the story it's a part of the building blocks of being able to comprehend once they start physically reading. Verbal retelling, that's part of after what they hear, they can verbally retell what's going on. Connection to the text, the self, and the world around them. So we've been reading pumpkin books. A kid goes, I have a pumpkin in my house, or we decorated for Halloween. They're connecting what we're reading and what we're talking about to things in their own personal lives. That helps make that bond stronger in their head and helps them remember later. Reading isn't just about decoding. So they could read this sentence. They can say, reading isn't just about decoding, reading the words. It's also about understanding. they could read it, but that's not necessarily a reason to be impressed, because I could go back and say, what does that mean? And then, I don't know. There's not much of a point to that reading if they are unable to understand what they're reading. So we're building that building blocks of, what did I read? What did we read? What did we talk about? So that they know that the words have meaning.
So the rhyming words, we didn't expose the kids to the rhyming words yet. It's something that we're gonna start on later, but it's very helpful for the students to start noticing rhyming words because it adds to their vocabulary list. And a lot of books that have rhyming words in it, it's easier for them to remember or to predict what's gonna happen next. It's a helpful tool to. There's a lot of things you can do with your kids for exposing them to the rhyming words, like the I Spy game. And every time you're sitting and reading a book, if you find rhyming words, just point at them and like let them notice that. Do you notice how the ending sound is the same? Do you notice how this letter is like this letter? And it just keeps adding to their vocabulary bank, and they just use it whenever they need it. It's a good way to remember new words.
Letter skills. So children will recognize their own name and identify the letters in their name. This is one of the standards that we have, one of their benchmark skills for the end. So some fun activities to do include using, I'm sure you've seen these letter magnets at toy stores and things, putting them on the fridge and saying, okay, find your name. And then they can try to piece together the different letters that will make their name. So these are one of, especially our starting points, the first few months of school. We really focus on them being able to recognize their name, possibly write their name, and be able to pull out some of the letters that are in their name and relate them to other things. So these are our basic, recognize your name, identify the letters. We stick to lowercase letters to start with, except for the first letter of the name. It's the important one. It's capitalized. And then we can use magnetic letters. We have them in our class. We can put up on our whiteboards and things so they can find their name and they can spell it out and do what they need to do.
So the direction, again, whenever you're reading a book or they're pretending to read a book for you, make sure they always start from left to right. They sometimes really don't know their left hand or right hand, but just if they decided to start from the middle of the page, just take their hand and you see, this is how we read. That we start from here and we end there, and just keep directing them in the right direction. And then we also go from top to bottom. So from left to right is important, and from top to bottom is important. Because sometimes we give them anything to work on, and they do, like a puzzle for their name, for example. They fix it super nicely, but they start from right to left. That's fine. Just bring it to their attention. Maybe they didn't even recognize it. Just bring it to their attention that we start from left to right, top to bottom. That's how we, and if they're holding a book upside down, of course you need to make sure it's the right direction. They start from the front page to the back page. These small things help them later on become better readers.
Okay, book orientation. This is what Nahla was talking about with how the kids hold the book. You'd be surprised how many kids in pre-K 4 will hold the book upside down and backwards and think that it is the most correct thing they've ever done. So part of what we do this year is teaching them how to hold a book, how to turn the pages one at a time without ripping them with effort. So we start, these are the labels that we use as the part of a book. There's the front cover, there's the back cover, there's the title, the author, the illustrator. And then when we open the book, it's part of the left to right, top to bottom. Does the student recognize that they're reading? And when they read like this, they go across, they turn the page when they get to the end of the sentence. Let's see, we have a special place where books are kept within the child's reach. So those are different levels of books. We have them in the classroom, we have them in the library, and if you want to find certain books for the age level of your child, the librarians are amazing. You can go into the library and say, I have a PK4 student, I want to read some books with them. They will find you some books that are on that level that have the very easy reading or easy pictures to decipher. And they'll be able to hook you up with those. Talk about the books you read. Point to the title, ask them what they think the book will be about. Point to the print everywhere. So sign, label, environment. When you're in the mall, point at store signs. Point at for sale signs or you can point at the little signs above the clothes. Anything so that they recognize what letters are and how we see them in our everyday life. We see them everywhere. This is important for them to start recognizing that, oh, by reading, I'll be able to understand what I'm looking at when I see these things.
And back to the book orientation, there is a part about the author that we keep asking them, what do you think an author do? Sometimes they don't know, but if by this time they should know that an author is the person who's writing the books. You don't know how surprised they were when they know that an author is an actual person. And an actual person is writing these funny things. And when they see the picture of the author, oh, is that the author? It's a very big surprise for them that these books are not coming from heaven. It's people can make them. So it brings to their attention that, you know what, you can be an author too. You can be an illustrator. So what we're trying to work on is reading books for same authors like Mo Willems and Eric Carle, bringing to their attention that, you know what, let's read a book for our favorite author, and we keep bringing to their attention that do you see the same characters? This author is really funny. He likes to use this pigeon in every book. He likes to use these kind of drawing or this kind of coloring strokes. So this is important to have them have a favorite author, because if they do have a favorite author, they just go around and grab their books. We were reading a book the other day for Mo Willems, and then we had library. They went in and they asked for the author, and they came back with all the Mo Willems books from the library. So if there's a book that they really like, you can tell them, you know what, let's look for the author for this book and see what other books he's writing. If they like a certain book, this is something else that you can do. And that's my slide.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, whenever you're reading, make it meaningful and talk to them about what you're reading. Ask them what do they think. Have a conversation with them that is important and make them feel valued, and ask for their opinion, ask for their feedback. It doesn't have to be in English, by the way. You can read in any other language. As long as you're using these skills and building onto their vocabulary, that's perfect, because it helps them later on to, if they know it in Arabic, they're going to know it in English, they're going to know it in Spanish, they're going to know it in all the other languages. So it's basically for any other language too, not just in English. You can use these strategies with any other language. And also, again, when you're reading, you can, the different genres, and tell them, this is a funny book, we're going to read a funny book today. Today we're going to read a scary book. Today we're going to read a fiction book, a fairy tale. It's not real. Do you think really a pig can talk? Do you think this can happen? And other books are like real books, and you tell them, this is non-fiction. These are big words, but the more they're exposed to these kind of vocabulary, it helps them later on to recognize it easier.
By the end of the year, these are some of the benchmarks that we have for the students. Communication and vocabulary building, reading comprehension, print concepts, so book orientation, phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition. Now this is very important. It is not an expectation for pre-K 4 to read and write. In pre-K 4, we teach them pre-reading and pre-writing skills. So what you're seeing us discuss today is what we teach the entire year. It creates the right foundation so that they are going to be the best learners they can be when they move on to kindergarten and first grade, where academics really, really take a step up. We want them to have this foundation. If we skip forward too quickly, it could cause issues later in their grade levels, because they don't have that sturdy foundation of comprehension, of recognizing characters, recognizing emotions and pictures. These are the building blocks of their education as they go up. Okay. Here are some resources that we have. Okay, we have 5 minutes for questions. 5 minutes for questions. Does anybody have any? If you have any.
For my son, what I've noticed, he can read by picture. For example, he saw on my phone the name Aya, and he told me this is Aya, because he just see.
He's recognizing the word.
Yeah, even when my mom calls, he just recognizes it as
that's pre-reading. There you go.
So,
And
but he cannot just go
Exactly. He's bringing it back from his memory. He's recognizing that he sees this name in other places. This is exactly what happens with environmental prints. That's why we have it. We're going to be having it all around the classroom, like the exit sign, the toilet sign, the push, pull. These are things that they don't have to read. They can just recognize it because they see it everywhere and all over the places. This is one step of the pre-reading skill and knowledge.
We should focus learning his name, right? To write his name on his mother language or English.
You can do it in both, but being able to recognize his name is something very important that we do.
He
And
does,
we can,
but,
yeah, it's
no,
okay.
the next step.
Yeah, no, keep
He's
them.
writing